In this episode, you will witness the moment that changed the fate of Westeros. Two kings march to war, believing their armies are unstoppable. But above the battlefield, three shadows rise into the sky. Balerion, Vhagar, Meraxes. The field of fire becomes a storm of flame. Kings fall, dynasties end. Loren Lannister faces the ruin of the West. The Reach loses its ancient kings. And as the smoke clears, lords begin to bend the knee. But victory does not belong to armies. It belongs to the dragons. This is the day the Seven Kingdoms began to fall.
Aegon was not born king of Westeros. He landed as a conqueror. Upon three hills at the mouth of the Blackwater, his men raised wooden walls, not white stone, not marble, oak, iron, fear. Thus Aegon Fort rose. Not a capital, not a palace, a war camp. A palisade stretched along the slope. Towers watched the river. Moats filled with murky water. The forges never fell silent. And along with timber, they brought steel. From the Stormlands came wagons, blades of the Durandons, swords of fallen knights, weapons of those who did not bend to flame. After the death of Argilac Durandon, Storm's End passed to Orys Baratheon, who took the fallen king's daughter to wife and kept his sigil and his words. But the swords of the Durandons did not remain in the castle. They were gathered and sent to the mouth of the Blackwater, to the fort that still smelled of fresh wood. No one knew why. The smiths did not reforge them, did not sharpen them, did not melt them. They were stacked in rows, as if they were not spoils of war, but preparation. Meanwhile, the South did not stand idle. The fall of Harren the Black proved one thing. Dragons were no rumor. They were a weapon. In the Reach, King Mern IX Gardener called his banners. At Casterly Rock, King Loren I Lannister raised the Lions of the West. Two armies joined, the greatest force the plains of the Reach had seen since the Andals. Heavy cavalry, clad in gold and green, Long spears, lion-marked shields, silken standards of House Gardner. The chronicles give this army no name, but in those days it seemed unbreakable. Tens of thousands, steel against fire. Aegon waited. He did not hurry. He knew that the larger the army, the wider the flame. He watched the west, and behind him the fort continued to grow, and with it the growing pile of swords.
They did not meet upon the field, not beneath the open sky, but beneath canvas, heavy cloth in green and gold, the colors of the Reach. The crimson lions of the west stood beside them for the first time. Mern 9 Gardner sat straight-backed. His armor was etched with vines and golden leaves. He did not look like a man prepared to yield. Across from him stood Loren Lannister, without ornament, without theatrics. Lannister did not believe in miracles. He believed in calculation. A map of the Reach lay upon the table, marked with small banners. Cavalry in the center, infantry in dense ranks, archers along the flanks. "He has fewer men," one lord of the Reach said. "He has dragons," Loren replied. Silence settled in the tent. Mern rose. "A dragon is a beast," he said. "A beast can be wounded. A beast can be killed." He spoke calmly, not loudly. He believed in his army, in the field, in nights raised among wheat and sun. According to the chronicles of Fire and Blood and the world of Ice and Fire, their host was the largest ever assembled against Aegon. Tens of thousands. If dragons did not exist, it would have been enough. Loren stepped closer to the map. "If we strike quickly," he said, "we can break his center before he takes to the air." "He will take to the air," someone answered quietly. The tent smelled of oil and sweat. Outside, footsteps moved in steady rhythm. The army was preparing. No one spoke of fear, but each man knew if fire swept the field, cavalry would become a trap. Mern rested his hand upon the hilt of his sword. "Tomorrow," he said, "we show Westeros that kings do not kneel to flame." Loren did not answer. He watched the canvas wall ripple in the wind and thought of the sky. Night descended upon the plains of the Reach without storm. No rain, only wind passing through dry grass as if it already knew what morning would bring. Torches burned thick and bright. Fires stretched in long rows like stars fallen to earth. Hundreds of tents, thousands of men. Knights sharpened blades. Horses stamped at the soil. Servants carried water. Smiths repaired mail. The hum of the army did not fade. Some laughed too loudly. Some prayed. Mern 9th Gardner walked his lines. His armor reflected firelight. Loren Lannister stood apart. He looked east toward where Aegon would be. The sky was clear. That frightened him most. At the far edge of the plain, there was quiet, not because there were fewer men, but because they did not shout. Aegon Fort lay far away by the Blackwater. Here stood only a war camp. Beyond the tents rested 3 dragons. Their silhouettes were visible even in darkness. Balerion unmoving as a black cliff. Vhagar coiled, heavy and immense. Meraxes long, alert, head raised. From time to time, warm vapor drifted from their jaws. The soldiers watched in silence. When dragons are near, men do not speak loudly. Aegon I Targaryen sat outside his tent. No crown, no armor, only a black cloak across his shoulders. Beside him, Rhaenys. She always chose to sit closer to the fire, not because she was cold, but because light favored her. Her hair shimmered silver in the flames. Her eyes were calm. "They think we are fewer," she said quietly. Aegon allowed himself a faint smile. "We always are." Rhaenys looked into the dark sky. "Did you dream?" He did not answer at once. Yes. She did not ask what he saw. She knew he did not speak easily of fear. But she also knew something else. He did not fear men. He feared the future. Rhaenys touched his hand, not as a queen, as a woman. "Tomorrow will be beautiful," she said. "War is never beautiful. Fire is." He looked at her, and for the first time that day, his gaze softened. In the distance, Meraxes lifted her head slightly, as if sensing her rider's mood. Rhaenys smiled. "They think this is a battle of men. It is a battle of the sky." Aegon rose. The night was warm, but the silence was heavy. "Tomorrow everything changes," he said. Rhaenys stood beside him. "Tomorrow they will learn that kings burn the same as peasants." He held her gaze for a long moment. No passion, no spectacle, understanding. They knew what they were doing, and they knew the cost. Far away in the other camp, men laughed. Here they were silent. Night stood between 2 worlds. Steel slept. Fire did not.
Dawn came quietly. First the light touched the horses' manes, then the helms, then the banners. The army of the Reach and West did not prepare in haste. They prepared as men do for a tourney, as men do when they believe history will witness their triumph. Mail was fastened slowly. Swords were drawn and tested for balance. Shields rose and fell in steady rhythm with breath. Green standards of the gardeners trembled in the morning wind. Crimson lions of the Lannisters shone in the first gold of the sun. The cavalry formed a dense center. Heavy destriers struck the earth with iron-shod hooves. Steel rang against steel. Infantry locked ranks. Long spears, layered shields, polished helms. Archers took their places along the flanks. When the final orders were given,
The army advanced slowly. The plains of the Reach stretched wide and open, perfect for maneuver, perfect for a charge, perfect for glory. Dry grass whispered beneath thousands of boots. The wind moved steadily from the east. When the host reached the chosen ground, it halted and unfurled across the field. And then it became clear what the chroniclers would later record. This was not merely an army, it was a sea of steel. Tens of thousands, gold of the Reach, crimson of the West, horses, banners, spear points, flashing helms. The line of their formation seemed without end. Westeros had not seen such a host assembled against one foe. Had someone looked from the heavens, he would have seen the plain fill with men, as though the earth itself had risen to form a wall. And they believed that wall was enough. They saw nothing in the sky. Yet the army stood, shields locked, spears lowered, horses held in check. The sun climbed higher, casting such brilliance upon their armor that for a moment it seemed the land itself reflected fire. But it was not yet that fire. The wind passed again through the dry grass, bending it in long waves. The plain breathed quietly. And then the quiet shifted, not with a shout, not with a command, with a shadow. It passed first across the flank, narrow and swift like a cloud. A few men lifted their heads, then another shadow, wider. And when the third blotted out the sun for a heartbeat, the entire army looked upward. There were no clouds. There were wings. 3. According to the chronicles of fire and blood, this was the only time during the conquest that all 3 dragons fought together. Balerion, dark as burnt stone. Vhagar, massive as a moving siege tower. Meraxes, swift and wide-winged. They did not rush. They circled. No king had yet given the order. No archer had loosed a shaft. But the plain had already ceased to be a field. It had become a trap. The wind still came from the east, from the direction of the dragons. Loren Lannister did not blink as he stared upward. Mern Gardner gripped his sword as he would in any battle. But this was not any battle.
When the first roar tore through the air, the horses trembled before the men did. The sound rolled over the host like distant thunder. Still, no fire fell. The dragons descended lower, slower. The army shuddered, but did not break. "Hold the line!" The command rippled through the ranks. Spears dropped into position. Shields pressed tighter. Archers raised their bows. Arrows rose into the sky. Hundreds, then thousands, forming a dark cloud that briefly swallowed the light. Some struck scale. The chronicles record that dragons were wounded in other battles of the conquest, but that day, height and speed rendered them nearly untouchable. Arrows fell back to earth, embedding in soil and shield. Horses reared. Some tore free of their reins. Knights clenched their jaws and held fast.
Mern Gardner lifted his blade. He did not step back. Loren Lannister did not move. They believed that if the line held, if the first assault could be endured, if discipline did not falter, victory might still be seized. The wind strengthened. The dry grass bent in one direction. The dragon ceased circling. They aligned. 3 shadows, 3 descending lines, and in that moment it became clear the strike would not fall from above, it would sweep across the earth. Balerion opened his jaws. The field held its breath. The fire did not drop from the sky. It surged forward, a rolling wave, black-red and roaring. Flame raced along the ground, seized by the wind. The dry grass ignited at once, not in patches, not in scattered bursts, but as a single blazing sheet. Vhagar struck next, her fire heavier, relentless, driving the blaze deeper into the ranks. Meraxes cut across the flank, tearing through the archers' line. The plain ceased to be a battlefield. It became a furnace. The chronicles say 4,000 perished in the flames. Many more were burned, maimed, blinded by smoke. But in those first seconds, no one counted. Horses bolted, trampling their own lines. Shields grew so hot they were flung aside. Mail seared flesh. The tighter the formation, the more fiercely it burned. Fire moved along the line as if guided. The very strength of the host, the open field, the dense cavalry, became its undoing. Green banners burst like kindling. Crimson lions vanished in smoke. And still, in those first moments, some believed it could be endured.
Mern Gardner stood at the heart of his army. His armor was forged for tourneys and triumphs, not for an oven of flame. He watched the fire sweep through his ranks, and he did not move. Kings of the Reach do not run. He raised his sword as if to lead a charge through fire itself. But fire does not part for steel. It rises. His sons stood near him. The chronicles say nearly his entire line perished there. Not in single combat, not surrounded by foes, but in heat that left no room for valor or strategy. Confidence melted faster than the gold upon their cloaks. What had been an army moments before became men, only men, burning. Loren Lannister did not shout. He watched. The lion upon his breast was blackened with soot. He saw his proud cavalry broken, not by lance, but by air turned flame. Knights fell not to blades, but to heat. Arrows that had failed to reach the dragons now burned upon the ground. And Loren understood what Mern would not. This was not a battle. It was judgment. Above them, Balerion descended further. His wings beat so heavily that the wind itself seemed to obey him. His flame was broader, darker, swallowing rather than flashing. Vhagar held her line of fire with methodical precision. Meraxes moved with lethal speed, cutting through what remained of order. The dragons did not act in chaos, they moved in concert, not beasts in frenzy, but weapons directed.
Smoke thickened, the sun vanished, armor cracked, skin blackened, cries dissolved into hoarse breath, and those who once laughed beneath their tents, calling dragons mere beasts, now looked upward differently, not at a target, at a sentence passed. And across the burning plain, one truth settled like ash. Numbers are not strength when the sky belongs to another.
Smoke lingered above the blackened plain long after the flames had passed. The sun climbed higher, yet its light struggled to pierce the haze. The grass was gone, the earth had turned dark. Blades that had not melted lay scattered in ash. Some were twisted like softened wax, others were charred but intact, their edges dulled by heat. Shields had buckled, spears were reduced to blackened shafts. Silence followed the fire, heavier than the roar that came before it. Now and then a groan drifted across the field. Now and then the thin, broken whinny of a wounded horse. But the host that had seemed unbreakable at dawn was no longer a host. It was fragments. The chronicles record that 4,000 perished in the blaze. Many more left the field burned, scarred, marked for the rest of their days. House Gardner was no more. The line that had ruled the Reach for centuries ended in flame, and the West stood in smoke, looking upon the ruin. Loren Lannister removed his helm. Soot streaked his face. He did not wipe it away. He walked across the blackened ground, not as victor, not yet as supplicant, as a man measuring cost. He saw men who might still live, saw banners that might still be raised, but above him the sky still moved. The dragons did not depart at once. They circled, not hunting, not raging, holding the sky as their own. Balerion flew highest. Each beat of his vast wings drove smoke aside, revealing the scarred earth beneath. Vhagar descended lower. Her shadow passed over the survivors, and men lowered their eyes without command. Meraxes traced a wide arc beyond them, swift and controlled, as though sealing the field. And upon Balerion sat Aegon. He did not raise his sword, he did not cry out in triumph, he simply watched, and that was enough. He did not look like a man who had won a battle. He looked like a man who had confirmed what he already knew, that his will stood higher than numbers, that flame obeyed him. The sunlight broke through the thinning smoke and struck Balerion's dark scales. For a heartbeat, it seemed as though even the light served him. Loren saw it, saw the height, saw the distance between earth and sky, and understood what could not be bridged by courage. He gave the order to withdraw, not in panic, not in rout, in retreat. As many as remained moved westward, through ash, through shattered shields, past fallen kings. The plain no longer belonged to them. When the remnants reached the edge of the field, they found not fire, but riders, light cavalry bearing the sigil of the crowned stag. At their head rode Orys Baratheon. He did not draw his blade, he did not need to. He saw what Loren saw. The army of the West was broken.
The road to Casterly Rock now lay across lands Aegon controlled. For a long moment, no one spoke. Wind moved softly through the charred remains of grass. Loren looked back once more at the field. He could attempt to break through. He could sacrifice what remained of his strength, and the West would end as the Reach had ended. Or he could preserve his house. He turned his horse. Night fell upon the blackened plain without song. No torches burned in celebration, no cheers carried across the camps. The dragons had returned to rest, but their presence still weighed upon the air. In Aegon's camp, men moved among the dead not to strike, but to gather. Swords were lifted from ash, blades stacked in wagons, steel sorted and set aside. No one asked why. Orders required no explanation. Metal rang softly as it fell against metal. It was not the sound of victory. It was the sound of consequence.
Morning came gray. The smoke had thinned. The field lay quiet beneath pale light. Aegon stood near the edge of his camp. Balerion rested behind him, vast and silent, yet more commanding than any assembled host. From the western road approached a small company of riders. No banners unfurled, no drums. At their head rode Loren Lannister. He was not bound, not dragged. He came of his own will. Men stepped aside to let him pass. There was no laughter, no mockery, only watchful silence. Loren dismounted. He removed his helm. He stepped forward, and he knelt. Not slowly, not theatrically, simply.
I bend the knee.
I bend the knee, he said. Aegon regarded him. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Aegon accepted his fealty. And when Loren rose, he was no longer king of the rock. He was lord of the Westerlands. Casterly Rock remained his. His lands remained his. His house endured, but the crown was gone. Aegon did not destroy those who bent. He removed their crowns, and that was enough. In the Reach, word had already reached Highgarden. With Mern Ninth Gardener fallen, and his sons beside him, the royal line of House Gardener had ended. Highgarden had not burned. Its walls still stood. For centuries, House Tyrell had served there as stewards, ruling in the name of the Gardeners, but never wearing the crown. When Aegon approached, the gates were opened. There was no siege, no assault. The Tyrells came forth and knelt. They did not claim kingship. They did not invoke ancient blood. They pledged loyalty, and Aegon raised them as lords paramount of the Reach. The crown of the Reach was not passed on, it was ended. Thus, in the wake of fire, the West lost a king and kept a lord. The Reach lost a dynasty and gained another. And above the blackened field where two kings had stood at dawn, only one remained.
Friends, let me know in the comments what you thought about this episode.
Your opinion really means a lot for the channel. And if you enjoyed this story, please leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.